Welcome back. Today I wanted to focus on the heart. Our hearts are powerful. They are surrounded by quite a bit of electrical activity, and of course, electricity is what makes the heart pump. The heart is a muscle that pushes a lot of blood every single day around your physical body. Of course, our heart is more than just a muscle. It's more than a bundle of electrical impulses. Interestingly, our hearts also have some brain cells found inside the tissue of the heart. So in many ways, our hearts have a brain of their own. Of course they do. That's often how we make our decisions. We follow our heart. We follow the desire of our heart. Whatever it is that we pursue in life, whatever it is that guides us, whatever decisions we often make are really truly made in the heart. Our brain allows us to use our rational thinking to be able to really make a decision whether it's safe or not. Is it safe to cross the street? So our brains keep us safe, but our hearts guide us and allow us to make decisions. HeartMath Institute has focused a lot of their efforts on the understanding and the research of heart-brain connection, coherence. In other words, we know that we can measure electromagnetic field that surrounds our physical body and expands out beyond our physical body. And I wanted to explore a little chapter or a snippet of a chapter by Marcey Shapiro, who's an integrative medical doctor. She wrote a book called Transforming the Nature of Health. And in this first chapter, which is titled The Heart of the Matter, she explores and encapsulates a few key important ideas about the heart. And let's explore this together. The heart of the matter. The heart of a human embryo is one of the first recognizable structures formed. The embryo is initially a flat pancake-like grouping of 3 layers of cells: endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm. These layers give rise to all the tissues of the body. The cardiovascular system begins to develop early on while the embryo is still flat. The heart arises from the center of these layers, the mesoderm. The area that will become the heart is called the cardiogenic region. It begins to form in the 3rd week of fetal development. By day 22, the heart is spontaneously beating. The scientific answer that this occurs spontaneously is not very satisfying because it is clearly not happenstance. The timing is exact. Nature clearly sees the establishment of a beating heart as an essential initial step that occurs as part of an exquisitely ordered sequence in the generation of life. It is important to note that the heart is not necessary to provide biochemical nutrients for the tiny embryo. In its first 2 weeks, the embryo receives its nourishment from the yolk sac. After implantation in the uterine wall, the placenta forms, and fetal circulation and nutrient delivery, especially early on, is entirely dependent upon the mother. And when the heart begins to beat at day 22, it does not yet have chambers or a circulatory system into which it would pump blood. So why is this tiny beating heart of the 3-week-old embryo so important to the project of life? Could it be that the beating heart provides a different, but still essential type of nourishment? By acknowledging an underlying spiritual non-physical reality, it is easier to see what's happening during early fetal development. The heart is physically and metaphorically the direct pathway to and from the inner being. Most of us already understand or trust that there is a sacred magic in this primary process. Perhaps what actually happens is the heart begins to beat in response to an impulse originating from the infinite reservoir of life force. The beating heart is a blink at our core between the physical and the non-physical, resonating to the rhythms of both. The heartbeat arises in a minute-flat cluster of cells to resound in tune with great cosmic forces that organize physical life. The heart begins to beat so early on because it is central to the project of physical life. The heart exists to bathe each of us throughout our lives, each tiny developing human, each child, and each full-grown adult in our own unique electromagnetic field. Each heart beats its particular vibrational tune in resonance with the drum of a greater non-physical rhythm. What does this mean? It is well known that if you pluck one stringed instrument in a room or tap a drum, others nearby will vibrate as well. If there are several instruments in the vicinity, each reverberates in resonant harmony to the original tone. Yet none of the sounds produced by differing instruments are identical, though they technically play the same tone. The body of each instrument determines the depth, richness, and complexity of the note each sounds. The type of wood and the age and skill of the crafter who created it are among the many factors that co-join to create each instrument's unique sound. It is the same with us. We're each unique instruments of the divine. We each produce a symphony of vibrational tones. One's heart, mediating between physical and non-physical, is the pivotal instrument upon which the concert of each physical life is played. It translates and transmits the transcendent into each person's life path. Our hearts reverberate the voice of the divine because they're always connected to it. Our heart creates the strongest electromagnetic field of our body. It is up to 60 times as strong as the field the brain generates and can be detected up to 15 feet from the body. This means that it plays the loudest and clearest tones of any tissue. Our cells, organs, and mind can clearly resonate. The personal heart field affects not only oneself but others as well. The more harmoniously our heart resonates with our inner divinity, as demonstrated by peacefulness and coherence, the greater the amplitude of field it generates. This effect has been measured in laboratories. There are rhythms of life all around us, suffusing material reality, observable in great and small tidal forces. Perhaps modern scientists have not discovered them because none were seeking this type of information. However, osteopaths, craniosacral practitioners, acupuncturists, Qi Song practitioners, and others involved with bioenergetic healing modalities attune themselves with ease to various broader pulsations. Some of these are electromagnetic, but others, while easily perceived, are sensed in the bioenergetic field, and we currently have no tools or instruments to measure them. Remember the old adage, if your only tool is a hammer, you will always be looking only for nails. Science not rooted in any broader context does not seek knowledge of the link between our bodies and our inner being, or evidence of continuity between physical and non-physical reality. In fact, it studiously avoids looking at the particular elephants in the living room. Even if scientists stumble upon such information, results are usually discounted, explained away, or ignored. This is not an accident, and in Chapter 7, Maps of the World, I'll explain more about the separation of science and spirit happened. At the heart of us, a physiologic connection exists between our divinity and our physical existence. I propose that life force itself animates the heart, and that is why the heart must beat so early on. It is also why the heart is intuitively so sacred to us. Notice how many Catholic churches called Sacred Heart are scattered around the earth. Could science find this connection? Of course it could, if it were a type of science that were pursuing this information. It is not especially difficult to learn to feel the pulsations of life force with one's hands. Anyone who has the desire to develop the sensitivity can do so with practice. Acupuncturists feel it in the flow of qi. Cranial osteopaths and craniosacral practitioners learn to feel the breath of life in the tissues. Even materialistic science is aware that our human hands are sensitive to motion measured in microns. Think of how easy it is to feel the slightest breeze on your skin. Let's look further into embryological development and consider what it might indicate if we know ourselves as spiritual beings in physical form. The drama of embryologic life continues with the development of the head and the brain. The formation of the brain gives more credence to a comprehension that the heart is the heart of the matter rather than the brain. Brain development begins in the 5th week after conception, and early brain activity is noted in the 6th week. When the embryo becomes a 3-dimensional being rather than a flat collection of tissues, the area around the heart folds. The nucleus of the cellular material that eventually becomes our brain is contained in the folded area just above the heart. So when we are tiny embryos, our heart and brain are essentially connected structures. In early brain development, these tissues separate, and the portion of tissues that will become the brain begins to unfold and lift upward. The heart moves downward caudally, settling in the neck region for a while before finally locating itself in the chest. It is amazing that the cells that shape and comprise our brain literally form from the tissue closest to the beating heart. Because the brain arises with the heart, the two are intimately connected through various nerve pathways and remain so throughout a person's life. There are more neuronal connections leading from the heart to the brain than neurons leading from the brain to the heart. This indicates to me, as well as to some researchers, that while nature intended a rich transfer of information between the heart and the brain, she believed the heart would have quite a bit more to say to the brain than vice versa. The sequence of brain region formation is also of symbolic interest. The most primitive areas develop first, those responsible for instinct and possibly intuition, the reptilian brain and the brainstem. The next area of the brain to form is the emotional brain. The parts of the brain that we think of as giving us higher functioning, like reasoning, logic, and math ability, actually develop last from the emotional brain. At 7 weeks, the embryo is less than 1 inch long and looks like a tadpole. The heart has been beating for weeks, and the brain is still forming. There's a scaffolding of cells called radial glial cells that directs the formation of brain cells from a central zone out toward the peripheral regions of the brain. The brain itself forms from the inside out. This hard science is riddled with symbolism. The heart is the center. The heart is first. The brain, the thinker, comes afterwards, arising from tissues lying alongside the heart and is forever linked to it. The instinctual brain is first to develop, and the emotional brain is next. The reasoning brain comes last out of the emotional brain. The entire development of the brain is a movement from interior to exterior, and interior always remains connected to the exterior. Nature has priorities. She tells us secrets hidden in plain sight about the order upon which the human template functions. The brain is always linked to the heart, and information constantly passes between the two. The heart has much more to say to the brain than the brain has to the heart. If things are going well, the heart speaks and the brain listens and interprets. This is the essence of alignment. At the opposite end of life, when the heart dies, the person dies. An individual can be brain dead and go on living for many years, connected to life force through the beating heart. But when the heart is gone, life is over. A person can be maintained on an artificial heart for only a few hours. Perhaps this is because each person's heart supplies her unique electromagnetic field. The field of vibration bathes all of the cells of our body. Perhaps our individual electromagnetic field provides information about us as spiritual beings to our cells and organs. Each human electromagnetic field is as distinctive as a fingerprint or retinal pattern. No two are identical. Mechanical hearts, on the other hand, do not beat in tune with the greater rhythm of life. They are not unique to each individual. Mechanical hearts do not mediate between inner divinity and physical existence. The cells and tissues of the body recognize this. Without a living heart, without their center, they perish. The animating force organizing and linking them to broader, non-physical reality is no more. Interestingly, further evidence for this notion can be seen in the curious cases of people who have had heart transplants. Transplant patients are frequently emotionally changed from who they were prior to the surgery. Differences in both minor and major aspects of personality have been observed: food preferences, color choices, introversion and extroversion, and language acquisition skill. The transplant recipient becomes a blended being, one in whom the donor heart reverberates in its own unique way in response to the animating forces of life. Our hearts also connect us to one another and especially to the hearts of others. Scientific studies on touch demonstrate that electromagnetic impulses of your heart affect the brain waves and heart rhythms of people around you. I suspect that the electromagnetic impulses of the heart also provides a path of interconnectivity between humans and all living beings. Animals are often even more sensitive to these field effects than humans. Why then, in our society, do we give such primacy to the intelligence of the brain while ignoring the intelligence of the heart? The answer is simply this: as we acknowledge the wisdom of the heart and learn to live a heart-directed life, the internal evidence of our spiritual nature becomes overwhelming. Science, until now, has not been willing to acknowledge or address this unity. In diverse spiritual traditions, it is the heart, not the brain, that guides the enlightened soul. Those things that fill the heart, joy, passion, awe, and harmony, are the ambrosia that nourishes life force. The German Christian mystic Rudolf Steiner, 1861 to 1925, founder of the Anthroposophy movement, understood that one of the great transformations of science would come in the 21st century as people learned to comprehend the central role of the heart and began to examine life from this heart-centered perspective. Steiner wrote about this almost 100 years ago, so the time he spoke of is upon us now. We're ready for heart-centered understanding. We're ready for a new science born of the union of heart, mind, and spirit. These are exciting times, and there's always a lot of great science being done in this arena. One epicenter of this new research in the United States is the Northern California-based Institute of Heart Math. Over the last 20 years, they've examined aspects of the intelligence of the heart and the heart-brain. One study looked at the precognition of the heart-brain in more than 2,300 trials. The researchers showed selections from 100 randomly displayed images to volunteers. Of these 100 images, 20 were negative or upsetting and 80 were neutral. These researchers measured heart rate activity of the research subjects via EKG, electrocardiogram, and brainwave activity via EEG, electroencephalogram, throughout the testing process, before, during, and after the display of each image. Typically, in daily life, when people experience something upsetting, their heart rate quickens in response. In this landmark HeartMath Institute study, the researchers were fascinated to observe that participants registered changes in their heart rates several seconds before a randomly generated negative image appeared on the monitors. The random generator had not yet selected the image, but the heart already knew what was coming and responded. This stunning piece of evidence points to a truth that spiritual teachers have been sharing for thousands of years. The heart can guide us, letting us know what is coming and helping us to steer our course in life. As we learn to listen to our heart, we can live life in a more intuitive, more prepared, present moment. For many years, I have taught and modeled for patients how to cultivate the relationship between the heart and the mind. I regularly encourage people to listen to their heart when making everyday decisions, including decisions about health and healthcare choices. The heart can give us important information necessary to run our lives. A life lived in concert with the heart is full of meaning. With the heart fully engaged, the soul's purpose is able to clearly and directly express itself to us. There are many simple yet profound practices I have cultivated to learn to listen to the still, small voice within. The frontier of human expansion lies in the cultivation of a conscious and lively communication between inner and outer being. Contemporary strategies for enhancing the dialogue between heart and mind involve deconstructing culturally derived stereotypes and limiting beliefs. Then we can arrive gently at intuitive wisdom present in the now moment. Most great breakthroughs, even in science, arrive through intuition or flashes of insight. We have all marveled at stories of great clarity that led to transformational discoveries. Tales of eureka moments are a consistent theme in scientific exploration, told again and again. These stories always have a common thesis. Epiphanies arrive in stillness, in relaxation, in reverie. The groundwork has been done for the receptivity. The questions have been asked, but the answer does not arrive during striving and grinding. The aha comes in peaceful moments. Friedrich August Kekule, who discovered the structure of the atom, received a vision of it all at once in a moment of reverie. Robert Louis Stevenson received the entire storyline of his masterwork, Treasure Island, in a sequential series of dreams. Minister and beekeeper Lorenzo Langstroth revolutionized 10,000 years of beekeeping in his living room one evening in 1851 when he all at once saw suspended movable frames kept a suitable distance from each other and a case containing them, and continued remarking, "Seeing by intuition, as it were the end from the beginning, I could scarcely refrain from shouting out my eureka." In the open streets, Tesla, Einstein, and most of the greats of modern scientific thought acknowledged that their most sweeping insights came not during plodding and study, but at times of relaxation and calm, when guided by the heart. Everything came together. The science that emanates from awareness of our inner divinity is majestic. Science will flower in the coming era as we embark on exploration of real wisdom rather than continued accumulation of a conglomeration of disjointed facts. But this new territory requires a science born of love, a science acknowledging spirit. This science recognizes the heart at the heart of the matter and listens to it. Guided by the heart, we create a worldview of wholeness, unity, and love. Love is the beginning and end of everything. It is at the center of our being, suffusing every moment of life. This simple yet radical truth has been observed and shared by mystics and spiritual teachers of every tradition. A new paradigm is emerging. It is the underlying understanding resulting from a maturation of humanity that now is beginning to accept its divinity and interconnectedness. The resulting science, born of love, is and will be so much fun. Tools for transformation. Number 1. Since the heart is the metaphorical and spiritual center of our physical existence, you might enjoy doing some exercises to center you in the heart as you read and ponder the idea in this book. There are many ways to strengthen our connection with divine intelligence. Your heart sends out electromagnetic waves in all directions, beaming electromagnetic energy like the sun beams light. Our individual electromagnetic heart waves can be measured from a distance of about 15 feet in any direction. One easy technique for centering in the heart is merely to listen to your heartbeat. Sit or lie in relaxation and feel for the quiet rhythm of your heart. You may want to put your hand on your heart or let a few fingers rest on the carotid artery in front of your neck. Number 2, then, while focusing on the beating of your heart, let yourself experience the waves emanating from it. You could enhance this experience by imagining your heart beaming out love, peace, or the beat of what you have to offer. You might also play with tracking individual rays, like following the twinkling of a star. Remember to just stay in the present. You do not need to judge or analyze this experience while you're engaged in it. Number 3, breathing techniques are some of the best tools for centering the heart. They have been used in spiritual practice throughout human history with good reason. Breathing techniques assist us in centering our consciousness in the here and now, allowing us to engage in exploration of the life force nourishing us in the present moment. They also help us connect with the rhythms and tides of the physical and spiritual realms. At any time, but especially when you're agitated, you can visualize your breath flowing to and from your heart. Breathe in to the heart and out from it. Most people find this quite calming. You can also breathe a soothing word such as peace, calm, ease, freedom, or love into it and out from your heart. Ease in, ease out. Love in, love out. Calm in, calm out, etc. Notice how this steadies and slows your heart rhythm when you're anxious and how this strengthens your feeling of well-being when you're happy. Dr. Marcey Shapiro brings up a lot of very important points about the heart. As I mentioned earlier, our heart, and as she alludes to the same fact, emanates waves of electromagnetic energy. We are energy, and our heart center expands way out, as she suggests in her chapter, 15 feet. What does that tell us? Have you ever walked into a room full of people and you just get a sense of someone and you're just drawn to them or perhaps repelled by them? Those are the magnetic field energies that you're reacting to or are magnetized by. Think about that. Think about what electromagnetic field you put out on a regular basis. She offers a few very simple techniques. Place your hand on your heart, breathe in, breathe out into the heart region. And that's one of the ways we literally connect with the heart. This book was published in 2012, and it's relatively recent. As she suggests by Rudolf Steiner, we are now coming into the age of living heart-centered lives. Thanks for joining me today. I will be sharing more on mind, heart, health, consciousness. I look forward to being with you next time. In the meantime, stay well, be well, and here's to a heart-filled living.